Hello and welcome to Steps to Intelligent Automation, a webinar brought to you by Data Capture Solutions and Quadient. In this short session, we're going to explore what it is that separates businesses that manage to adapt and thrive in a digital world from those who fail. And we're going to explore a model for building for change, for scaling, expanding and excelling your business at your own pace. So during the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'd really like to hear from you. So please ask questions via the panel on your screen, and we're going to do our best to answer them at the end. If you're joining us on demand, then please email us or contact us via our website. I'd just like to let you know that this session is being recorded. So what we'll do is that we'll send out an on-demand link with access to the slides after the event. So what I'd really like to do now is to introduce you to our guest speaker, Dean Francis, who's Sales Director at Data Capture Solutions. Dean's hugely experienced. He's got 20 years of experience of successfully developing and managing technology partnerships with organisations like yours that are seeking to advance their process automation. Dean really takes a consultative approach to clients and holds extensive knowledge in delivering solutions such as RPA, intelligent document capture, digital signature and process intelligence to reduce costs to reflect market conditions. So Dean, hi, and welcome, and over to you.
Thanks very much, Lucy. Good afternoon to everybody, and thanks for joining and taking the time. Before we start, I'd just like to give you a little bit of background as to who we are as an organisation, where we've got our experience from, and obviously just sharing some of those experiences from our customers over the many, many years that we've been set up. So Data Capture Solutions, they are part of an organisation called Quadient. Some customers that have logged in, some may be new to us. They were Quadient originally known as Neopost. So we've had a recent name change. So Data Capture Solutions are a business that was acquired by Neopost back in 2014. We were set up around in 1996 back then as a document management provider. But really back then it was more about turning hard copy documentation into a digital format, really. So just a bureau service just to convert hard copy documents. So that's where it all began. We're part of the 1 billion turnover Quadient group based here in Slough in Berkshire in a secure environment here. And fundamentally we set ourselves up to help organisations automate the sort of document-centric processes, the usual thing for bringing more efficiency, operational costs and getting those lowered. And we do that with a number of different ways in terms of some best of breed products that we use. One that some of you may or may not be familiar with, a product called CAFCASS. That's an extensive suite of applications, and we will cover some of those as we go through the next half an hour or so. And we have some of our own IP, so around products for document management and workflow. So that's our file store product, and also a product called Mail Manager. And again, we'll explain a little bit more about those, about digital routing of post. We've been a CAFCASS partner for 13 years now, and we use their products extensively in our bureau. So we have lots of experience around the applications. So because we have large numbers of users ourselves, and we're also one of the largest click count users, so the amount of images going through our system for organisations across Europe. So just a little bit on the Quadient group. So we're a much larger organisation, nearly just under 6,000 employees across 29 countries across the globe, and saying just over 1 billion in revenues, with 48% of that coming out of Europe alone. There's 90 countries in which Quadient products are sold. So whilst we're fundamentally talking around intelligent automation today, the benefit of us as a group as a whole, and not just Data Capture Solutions, is that we have much wider solutions and products and services right across the group. So these entail both inbound and outbound communications as a whole. So we tend to look at that as a holistic approach and look at how information is being received and sent back out, and the links obviously between the two, because invariably there are definitely communication that comes in that then kicks off an outbound process or vice versa. So how can we help with that and look at that more holistically and providing benefits across your business. So just to run through a couple of our high-level core offerings, this breaks down into 4 key areas. The first one, top left of your screen, is outsourced processing and backscanning. Again, that goes back to our traditional business of transforming hard copy documentation into digital format. We also run ourselves there as an outsourced bureau, so where we receive post and communication, hard copy, electronic, all sorts of formats, and process that on behalf of our customers. We use the CAFCASS platform for that, and again mentioned that's a global market leading application, and that includes a number of things from transforming hard copy documents into digital formats, so the scanning of applications, all sorts of forms, documents and checks, looking at the content, looking at extracting data and validating that. So that's some of the real core infrastructure that they've been providing for many, many years. And then using their more current process over the last 5 or so years around workflow, robotic process automation, which is very topical at the moment. I'm sure many of you would have heard about that, and other things like mobile capture and digital signature as part of their suite of products. Also, we have our document management repository, which we use sometimes specifically for projects such as HR, invoice processing, case management, or it can be used broadly for the underlying document management platform for the business as a whole. One thing that we did realise some years ago when we were looking at digital mailroom type environments, where many processes will start and end with a documentation being fed into core platforms, so your finance, your HR, maybe case management systems, your legal applications, but there was something missing in terms of other posts where there was no necessarily a landing place for that, or no system where that can be fed into. So there was a little piece missing, so we generated the Mail Manager application and developed that, where we can still capture all in communications coming through and deliver that electronically. So think of it as an electronic pigeonhole and pushing data directly to where people need it, but keeping the full audit trail of what comes in, so we can track and trace it going through the business. So obviously intelligent automation now is changing the role of how organisations run and manage processes. In every industry now, it's the spread of digital technologies and robotic process automation and things like artificial intelligence. I'm sure many of you would have heard about, and certainly you see adverts now on TV all the time promoting these technologies. And the rise of these disruptive threats are transforming business models and processes as a whole. We hear all the time, from our customers, how do we adapt and transform for this sort of new digital era? I know many of you would have probably already started on this journey, but it's evolving all the time now. We've had over the years loads of different technologies. The good news is, though, where customers have really been struggling to move to digital platforms, we can help and assist you migrate to that for your own competitive advantage. So hopefully over the next 20 to 30 minutes, we'll give you some background into how we can assist, and some real life case studies from our customers of how they've gone from pretty manual processing of tasks to more digital, and the curve that they've achieved coming right across from scanning in general, right along the curve to sort of robotic process automation. And over the years, we've had a privilege to draw on the insights and perspectives from a whole host of customers across different sectors, really. So we get a really good insight into some of their problems that they try and look to achieve. So it's not just about the technology, it's also about strategy and just the way you have to now think about your processes in general and how we can help streamline these. It's about optimization and reducing risk, and obviously compliance also comes into the picture in many cases. So what are some of the main challenges that we see today? And I guess a lot of you will be familiar with these as a whole. In some instances, we just have to throw more people at the problem. More hands on deck, more volume comes in through the door. We put more desks in, more people, and we just train them up and then get them to handle those processes. Information is coming in from multiple sources now. It's not just the post. The post for a lot of people, as we know, is declining. It's coming in via electronic formats, a lot via email, a lot via attachments, via web portals, mobile devices. So everything now is coming in from all these different sources. The explosion of data over the years is growing, and there is absolutely no sign of a slowdown. Far from it, really. So we need to look at how we can handle these volumes of data, which are largely spread across disparate systems, really, and many of those have not been integrated. So some of the challenges, really are with a lot of the manual-based tasks and processes that are being carried out. The problem is now with, whilst people have the knowledge in their head, a lot of them are being asked to do sort of repetitive, unimaginative tasks that really sort of they're paid, quite well for, and actually their knowledge is not really being utilised to the best of the business. So it's now looking at, how do we maximise that knowledge of that person, take away some of those more mundane tasks, especially for teams of people that we see just sitting there keying in data into systems. How do we take that away and then focus that more towards customer focused tasks or more valuable tasks for the business? So again, there's some key areas now around the people, and obviously adding costs, and sometimes in many cases is just the outsourcing of some of these problems. Whilst outsourcing is beneficial in many ways, sort of some of the larger enterprise organisations have probably relied on it a little bit too heavily. Certainly with outsourcing problems, but offshore, which had its own challenges. The change management, sort of cultural differences, some unrealistic expectations in many cases, exposing of your intellectual property. And we've seen a lot of this over the years now, and we're having customers coming back to us now asking about bringing these either back onshore or bringing it back on premise or in cloud services, and managing those services back themselves now. There is always the risk of customers that do nothing. And of course, that's for many people an option. The problem that we see with that is there's three sort of key areas that this has a massive impact against. One of those is that employees tend to opt out. We're seeing more and more customers now struggling to attract new staff and even retain staff. People now and new employees expect automated tools and systems to be in place to help support their roles and their function. So that's one of the key areas. Customers tend to switch off or churn out, and as you can see there on a survey from American Express, 30% of Americans consider switching companies after just a single instance of poor service, and we probably see that a lot here at the moment, again in loyalty. Because now it's so easy to get information and get access to quotations and change in customer service. It's improving all the time. Really trying to keep customers now is paramount in today's world. Many of our projects are not just focused on efficiency, but purely around the customer experience. And obviously competition. Obviously we don't want to lose out to competition. So it's important that we stay ahead of the curve. We have improvements in our processes, so again we don't give business away or get our customers going on and heading off to different competition. And when we run through some case studies a little bit later on, we will see a little bit of where that's been paramount for a number of our customers. So there's obviously quite a few needs now from a customer to increase in digitisation, and say some of you will already have started on that some years ago. Some may be still looking at that right now. Your volumes may be increasing, some of the issues around it. You'll be feeding that in and maybe keying it into back-end systems, or you may even be automating some of those. But again, we find that organisations of all sizes have got multiple systems in the back end, and data will be sitting across all of those. And in many cases, a lot of those are not connected to each other. So again, it's quite difficult to get to information that you need that sits and spans across multiple data sources. It's also important now to improve the access to all that information, so you can be competitive in your own market spaces. And again, the ability to ingest information from various channels, validate, extract data, and push it around the system, push it into multiple systems in the back end very quickly, just helps you on that path to intelligent automation. So intelligent automation is not just about the latest trends, and again, talking about things like artificial intelligence, robotic process automation. These things seem to be hot topics right at the moment, have been for a couple of years now, and will continue to be. But it's not just about implementing the latest trends as they come out. You need to have an underlying platform to be able to handle some of these and to help you, grow in your steps towards this automation. Many of our customers are at various stages, even today, in terms of the automation curve, and we'll cover that in the next few slides. Many customers of ours are still struggling with paper, certainly in certain sectors, NHS, legal, very, very paper-based organisations. So, we need to look at how information is coming in, being received and processed, and not necessarily just jumping onto the latest trends. Although absolutely they will fit in somewhere along that automation curve. And it's also about enhancing existing platforms that you may have and processes. So how can we maximize those, add some automation to them? So it's not necessarily about ripping and replacing out of systems, it's about enhancing those and maximizing the investment that you've already made. So just talking about some of the steps that we see towards intelligent automation, and this is our view on it from what we see with our customers, and they generally tend to fall into four key areas. The first one being one which is sort of a scan to archive. So we mentioned that that's what we were set up to do as a business back in 1996. People had hard copy documents just sitting around their organisation or in storage, and just needed to produce an electronic digital copy of that for disaster recovery perhaps, or just quicker access to information. We still see that today. There are still many customers that are still looking to achieve that. And one of the case studies we will talk about a bit later on is West Midlands Ambulance Service, who embarked on an HR project and digitising all of their employee files. And again, we'll give you some background to that project and how that's helped them move forward. It does also span, you need to capture it. So where we pretty much was scan to archive in the early days, we're now pretty much getting to the stage where we capture at the start of a process. So where communication enters into the organisation, be it in all those formats we talked about, hard copy, email. Many organisations print off emails and attachments to then manually push around the business, or even scan back in many cases. So it's looking at how that information comes in and what we can do to categorise that data, extract it, validate it, and then route that on around the business. That can come in various forms. It could be structured or unstructured documentation. And again, there's various ways of dealing with that to help efficiency across that process. So those two areas are pretty much taking the paper into electronic. And again, many of you may have started on this journey or in some cases at certain processes. HR, finance, they're certainly key areas that we see where people have either started this process now or have already been down that route, which is great. But again, there's probably a lot more communication that flows in and out of the business that needs to be addressed. The next area really is around workflow or business process management, BPM, that people know, and again, applying robotic process automation, RPA, again, around that process. And we have a number of customers that have already started dealing with these technologies and been using workflow for some time. And again, over the last sort of 3 to 4 years now, looking at applying robotic software to some of these manual tasks to speed up efficiency, time saving, and just improving customer service. And then there's more technologies around mobile capture. Again, we're not, over the last few years, seeing that as a massive area, but over the sort of significant last few months or so, we're seeing more and more people looking at how they can utilize these massive amounts of mobile devices that people have and carry around every day, maximizing that for applications or web-based applications, and try and drive efficiency and speed up processes by just capturing from a mobile device and using that moving forward. Now, not all customers are necessarily using it. I mean, that in those sorts of orders, and some people have gone straight to RPA. So we can talk about a few of these over the next few slides. So we're just going to talk through a couple of example real-life cases that we've implemented over the last couple of years. One is around the West Midlands Ambulance Service. One is around an organisation called CAFCASS, central government organisation, and one is around an insurance broker called Brightside. And again, you may or may not know some of these names from day to day in the household. So the West Midlands Ambulance Service is an interesting project. It was the HR director was walking around the business about 18 months, 2 years ago, and just seeing the amount of paper that was being handled and being passed around, and just thought that it couldn't really go on in that manner. So what they decided to do was get a team together, try and look at what could be done to address this. And one of their main aims of the trust was to be was working to become one of 3 ambulance global digital exemplars. What that means is it's an internationally recognised NHS provider delivering exceptional care and efficiency, and through the use of sort of world-class platforms for digitisation and gathering of information. So the HR team embarked on a project and looked at 2 main elements. One was obviously the paperless vision, and one was putting it into an application where they can get access to this information quickly. One of the main challenges for them was that they had a number of files, all disparate, all in hard copy, sitting across multiple locations across the geography. So how did we go about getting all of that into a central repository? They had over 5,500 personnel and payroll records that existed as hard copy. Saying these were in a number of locations spanning a region of over 5,000 miles. They were increasing workforce and churning the workforce every day, so this was becoming more of a challenge. And they also had issues around GDPR, sensitivity of data, and how to manage that. So what they looked at doing was, so the solution was to backscan every single one of those files, categorize those so people can get to documents very quickly and direct it into the documents that they needed. So they embraced technology and a different way of working. So they created an HR records management platform that we implemented for them and helped them to get access to these records very quickly. All of the documents were captured, and if you're familiar with technology such as OCR, information was captured and they can do keyword search and drill down right on every single document. Being a web-based system, it allowed people to access information from anywhere, from pretty much any device, very securely, based on your permission rights. And the system was hosted because that was a preference for them in a UK data centre with full backup and recovery from that point of view. So again, we will be able to manage information very securely and then apply analytics around it so people can get information and reporting from the system very quickly. So from an efficiency point of view, there were smarter ways of working, increased efficiency for all managers who had access across to personal files, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It was helping them with their operational costs, streamline, and again, it saved a lot of people travelling around in the area, going to meet with people when they can get access to files online. So it saved a lot of time and effort from their HR staff and mitigated a lot of risk around security of documentation. The Director of Workforce and Organisational Development, Kim Nurse at the ambulance service, said that the system just gave them the ability to deliver a timely, professional and effective service to the trust. It allowed them to be more responsive to the HR team. And as an organisation providing 24-hour service every single day of the year, it just reflected on the needs and the requirement of the organisation as a whole. One of the other challenges that we did talk about some earlier, but one of their actual challenges that they felt was also the cultural challenge. So how do we, get this shift from a hard copy environment to a digital environment, and how it would impact on staff? So that was one large consideration they took into account when they were looking at how they implement this project. So they're given the sum, and we will share this afterwards and some of the key learnings from the project. And some of this was around just getting people around the table, understanding and looking at some of the processes as well of how they were currently handling these, and looking at more efficient ways of putting this before they went onto a digital roadmap. So moving on to another project slightly up the curve, it was one called CAFCASS. It's all about the safeguarding of children and vulnerable children. This is a very, very critical project, and everything needs to be handled in a very timely fashion. They're a central government body for the safeguarding of children, and what they were looking to do was give their teams time to focus on more about the children than more on handling and keying in paper. So in terms of the numbers for CAFCASS, they're receiving about 1,500 pieces of communication a day, which had to be linked to a case management worker. So they outsource that service. We receive that on their behalf, and we look up information, assign it to a case, and then we link it based on certain business rules, and we feed case numbers to case workers directly so they can react quickly and look at information, and anything else that's got exception quickly gets passed to the right team so they can handle it effectively. So in terms of the project for CAFCASS, they embarked on a number of projects at the same time simultaneously. This was one of them to help increase efficiency right across the group as a whole. The engagement process through them was through the Crown Commercial Services framework, and so it gave them a proper and formalised buying mechanism to deal with suppliers. Obviously, with the collaboration seamlessly, it needed to work with their back-end systems and some existing platforms that they had in place at the time. So we had to integrate in with those. And it was really about providing a speedy service that they could work within a certain 8-hour working SLA so they can get information quickly to where it's needed. They are, outside the NHS, one of the largest employers of social workers. So you can understand how key it is when it relates to vulnerable children. This information and safeguard them is critical. One final thing with CAFCASS is that they're also now looking to expand services like this, again, from a digitisation point of view, to more general mailroom. And again, looking at how we get the rest of the information from the business process as efficiently as possible. So moving on just to briefly the last case study, which relates to an organisation called Brightside, and again, quite well known if you go on the websites for some of your insurance quotations. And their main need was to stay ahead of the market. They targeted one of the higher end of the, I suppose, the more trend-setting applications these days, which is around robotic process automation. They're heavily regulated. They were 150,000 customers, but they were a very heavily manual process where they were passing documents around the business, and there was only 10% that was done via email, which caused big delays in the manual processing, causing some risk, and again was lacking in terms of the customer interactions and how they provided the service back to the customer. So the plan was to migrate to the digital solution and automating the inbound capture of the communication, and then applying software robots in the back end. So once data's been captured, to take away those manual tasks and apply robots to do some of that that grunt work, so their workforce can work and speak with customers and add the customer value-added service. So Brightside implemented digital marketing at the sales at the front end of the process initially, and then transitioned to using robots to deliver the back office activities. And this included sort of the documentation, the printing and dispatch of information and documents. So we as an organisation helped identify the suitable parts of the operation where this would lend itself to. And it was used for compiling the document packs where insurance documents were coming in from third-party portals, so going in and accessing that and bringing the information back, helping reconciling invoices, and also posting credits received from debt cases. Brightside are now extending that, and they're building robots on a weekly basis. But two other key processes were including the management of debt write-offs and automation of cancellations due to missed payments. So again, in terms of taking the underlying technology and extending it out through the business, has had a massive impact in terms of their productivity and also their customer service. So just coming after those sort of three case studies from our existing customers, it's just now about what steps are there to start helping build for that change. And sort of two key areas really are around maybe centralizing and digitizing the data, and then leveraging the automation once you have those files in a digital format, which is much easier rather than dealing with the hard copy paper. And the benefits of intelligent automation and the building for the change are significant in order for you to help work that bit smarter and obviously not harder. Many independent studies from the people such as Deloitte and Forrester are also show that automation technologies are a key technology driver to the cost savings and the productivity gains. Again, which is important from profitability in your business. So one of those real key areas that were identified was RPA in particular, in terms of the communication piece. And we're seeing a lot of that now with optimizing and consolidating information where it comes in. So whether it's a central site or feeding the information in from a central site where that can be processed, standardize the information. Again, looking at your process flows, how can we standardize them? How can we add efficiency in those processes? Look at optimization. Optimization is a key one in a process. Let's not replicate potentially a poor process now and then just digitize a poor process. So let's use it as a reason to see how those flow through the business, take out steps that are not necessary, and improve those as we go. and then applying intelligent automation along the way. And again, whether you have some of those already, looking at the points of where we can enhance those and improve those processes from end to end. All in all, it's around consistency of a process, accuracy of information, having full audit trails, being more compliant, and obviously being more productive, and speed of execution, and making the people that you have in your business more valuable, and taking away a lot of those steps that they're doing currently that just don't generally add the value. I think we're sort of getting a little bit tight on time, really. So hopefully some of those case studies will give you just some insight, and that's just a few of our customers, but would give you an insight into how various customers are using various technologies and processes to get along that curve for intelligent automation. And obviously it's something that we can help you with. Just get in contact, and we'll give you some details on the screen that will follow shortly. But by all means, when that information comes up, let us know. And I think if we have any questions that have come in, or any that would like to have been asked, then we've got a few minutes now just to sort of clarify a few of those.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dean. I think that you've just given some really, really great examples there of digital transformation, and that really digital transformation isn't just about technology, it's about strategy and new ways of thinking, which certainly I think that the case studies covered that off. As you just said, we have been running questions during this session. I'm not going to be able to answer all of them, but if I could just throw a couple out to you. I think we've got a few minutes.
Yep. Okay.
So I've got one here of somebody saying there is just so much to consider. How do we make a start on where to focus our efforts?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's quite sometimes that might be quite difficult in terms of an organisation, excuse me, to understand. But we're happy to come in and do some reviews of the processes and understand those. Look around the business, work through some of the process with you, look at the steps you're going through, and then once we get to understand the organisation a bit better, then we can help make recommendations. And again, with your help and support in terms of where are you seeing the bottlenecks, what's the most critical, where are the pain points, what has the most cost associated to it, and we can help that with our experience over the years, just to guide you through that and make some recommendations. But I think the key thing about this is actually just to make a start in general. These things are not just always quick projects. Some are, some aren't. Some's a strategy moving forward. So the quicker we look at them, the quicker we start, the more beneficial it will be.
That's great. I also think this is interesting because we talk a lot about the steps to intelligent automation. I've got a question here from somebody that says, I utilise some of these technologies already, but I'd like to know how I can benefit further. So can you give us some guidance on that, Dean?
Yeah, well, congratulations already if you are. I mean, we will have customers that will be, obviously, some of this is not new. It's just about keep reinventing yourselves and keep looking at it. So, from our side, it's great that people are using these technologies, and some of you would have been for many, many years, but things change on a regular basis in this industry. So it's just using us to help keep on top of those, keep reviewing those processes. And again, if you've invested heavily, which a lot of you will have done in terms of your platforms already and your processes, it's just to come in and not, as I mentioned earlier, not necessarily replace, but look at how we can help and plug bits of technology in between to help improve the process. So if you're capturing up front and converting documentation, feeding your systems, how do we now maybe help you go out into web portals and pull down information? How do we help you extract information from spreadsheet to spreadsheet where people are keying a lot of that data in? How do we help your vetting process and onboarding, making sure it's compliant and all the steps have been taken? So again, it's really about just understanding what you have in place, what you haven't, and just reviewing it and just helping you along that journey.
So that's people and process along with technology. So when we talk about intelligent automation, digital transformation, it's not purely technology, it's people and process. It's a new way of thinking about a digital ecosystem, I imagine. Yeah,
it's all of those things, Lucy, wrapped in, and as well as that, I mean, there was one thing in terms of the case study for West Midlands Ambulance Service, and one of the things they come up with is the cultural change, and you can't take that lightly, because we have a lot of people that have been doing jobs for many years, and it does involve change, and we just need to get those people involved in the process, let them understand, and hopefully they'll see that actually it just helps them in their roles.
Great, thank you. Obviously, an awful lot more to discuss. I would actually encourage anybody that if you have got questions, please come through to us via our website. We've got Dean's details up here at the end. And thank you just once again for joining Data Capture Solutions and Quadient. I hope that you'll join us again soon. And we'd really like to know your thoughts on paving the way to intelligent automation. So in the meantime, Dean and I would like to wish you a great day, and we look forward to catching up with you again soon. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.